During the Revolutionary War, our towns, our Onondaga towns and the Cayuga towns and towns of our allies were attacked by a campaign of the American Army, and it's referred to as the Sullivan-Clinton campaign. So that pushed us out of the area slightly north of Geneva and then down the Genesee River. And it pushed us westward, seeking refuge first among the British who held Fort Niagara at the time. When the war came to an end, the people who were surviving, and it had been a very brutal winter that we had to survive, we moved to the area that is today known as Buffalo, New York, and for a time was called the Buffalo Creek Tract. And Buffalo Creek became home to many members of the Haudenosaunee, not just Seneca, Cayuga, Tuscarora, but also Onondaga, Oneida, and Mohawk people were all living there on the area around Buffalo and in what is now the city proper. And not long after that time period, into the early 1800s, and perhaps even as early as the late 1700s, there began a conversation about the building of a canal that would go from the harbor at Buffalo inland and connect with waterways that existed. And ultimately, the plan became to build a canal from Buffalo to where it would connect up with the Mohawk River, and from the Mohawk River ultimately connect to the Hudson River and then connect to New York City.
Falls in the category with a lot of other historical events as another genocidal policy to remove and further our extinction.
Think about it from an Indigenous perspective. You look at, there's people that have lived here since the beginning of time, and all of a sudden people are coming through with pickaxes and creating this big trench through your homeland. They may not even speak the same language you speak, or there are another language you've heard, like English. It may be another language, and so it's really there's two sides to that story. One, that the industrialization of the Americas and the United States, and the immigration of other people coming through. But the other side of Indigenous people, specifically Haudenosaunee, of seeing people that they're not accustomed to seeing, kind of tearing through their land, their hunting grounds, their fishing areas, their medicine areas where it may have collected medicine. And so there's that really kind of, what does this mean, right? And so, and not only the canal brings through trade, but it also brings through different cultures. It also brings through different types of sickness, different kinds of disease that Haudenosaunee haven't really experienced before.
I don't know a whole lot about the Erie Canal, but I think there was probably pretty sure there was a lot of changes that were brought to this territory, which with the canal making transportation and having an impact with things happening because of it.
So I think it's like a symbol of American progress, and this move towards civilization and the idea of manifest destiny and Western expansion. I think it kind of joins or becomes a branch off of that narrative, right? American exceptionalism, and so it's marketed as such, and so the canal is kind of like a marketing tool and a source of history museums and maybe a tourist attraction. At the same time, I don't know, I think it's kind of taken on a new life too, with wellness and nature and physical fitness. But I think it's important too to consider the waters and the connection. Like, you know, dispossession aside and colonial history aside, it is kind of cool that we have this long stretch of land that, or this long stretch of water that was just created and connected by human hands and essentially like married together these bodies of water.
So this idea of water and canals and development, you know, it's really a question of development for who and for what.